preparing to record a podcast about Wikipedia is a nightmare. Every time you Google something about Wikipedia, you just get Wikipedia articles about it instead of what you're actually looking for, which is stuff about a company or organization.
It's Inception. Learning about Wikipedia on Wikipedia.
Yeah, that was tough.
But it worked.
I enjoyed that though. It felt very meta. Very meta.
I think there was even a page called meta.wikipedia that was about Wikipedia.
I think there is so much about Wikipedia. There is an article about reliability of Wikipedia. There's an article about executive salary in Wikipedia. So I think that's I think they are actually living what they preach, like being open and sharing knowledge. So I enjoyed that, to be honest. That was really nice.
Yeah, so in a way it was tough to prepare, but in a way it's also very transparent. So that was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome to another Business Design Teardown, where we look into darlings of the design community, companies, products, organizations that we designers use and love. Because we want to find out if they're only fancy designs or are they good businesses too. Today it's slightly different because it's not a business, it's a nonprofit, but we'll dive into this deeper very soon. My name is Alen. I'm the founder of the d.MBA.
My name is Franz, and I'm the program director of the d.MBA.
And I'm Tom, an independent product designer and design strategist, and host of co-host, chaps, of this podcast, but host of the d.MBA live events. And we have one coming up just next week. So thought we'd mention that today. These are monthly events that we host with fantastic guests, and I'm super, super excited about the one that is happening next week on Wednesday, 29th of May, 2024, 11 a.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central European Time. We will be exploring the many ups and downs of being a design entrepreneur, startup founder, anyone who has like a side project. I think you're going to relate to some of the stories in this event with the incredible Pablo Stanley, truly one of my sort of design heroes. So absolutely stoked that we're going to be spending some time with Pablo next week. Pablo co-founded, amongst many other things, Musho and Lumi, that are very cool AI design tools. And he'll be telling us a bit about the journey of bringing those to fruition. And together, an art studio for educational design materials. He also led Envision. He was a staff designer at Lyft, co-founded Carbon House. The list goes on. And he'll be sharing a talk about something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Some of you might have heard of this, some of you might not. You'll almost certainly have experienced this cognitive bias at some point in your career, in which limited knowledge often leads to us having overconfidence in our abilities of something. And then high levels of expertise can lead to self-doubt. And it's this sort of roller coaster that we can go on.
That's a familiar one.
I've experienced it many times.
Yeah.
Yes. Many designers experience this knowledge roller coaster when they're venturing into business concepts for the first time, which is something that we try and help people manage that journey of at the d.MBA. So whether you're building business confidence to strengthen your design impact or embarking on a new venture as a founder, learning to recognize those knowledge blind spots and when you're most prone to misjudging your expertise is really, really crucial, a really good skill to start to understand when this is happening to you. Pablo's going to do a talk all about that. We're going to have a short Q&A as well. Cannot wait. Please join us. And you can grab your spot by going to d.mba/webinars. Pablo's event information is all on there. Sign up, join us. It's going to be amazing. But back to today's episode. Wikipedia. First non-profit that we've done. I was going to ask, Wikipedia for me is just like a part of daily life. It's kind of ubiquitous, which is one of the reasons we're doing it. And great for obviously learning about absolutely any subject on the planet. But one of my favorite things you can do with Wikipedia, and I don't know if either of you done this, is Wikipedia races. Have either of you played a Wikipedia race before?
No.
No.
Actually, I just recently learned about this. Are we talking about, for example, the Wikipedia game?
Maybe. What's the Wikipedia game to you?
So the Wikipedia game, as I know it, is you get basically a start word, a start article, and a goal article, and you need to find the shortest way from A to B through Wikipedia. And I actually checked what it is today. It's deodorant
What's today's
to
one?
Eminem.
What's the first one?
Deodorant, so anti-transparent. Deodorant, thank you. Deodorant to Eminem. Exactly.
Excellent. Good stuff. Yeah. How do you get there? I'm sure he's used some of that lyrically. I can think of some sweaty stuff that he's used as lyrics. So yeah, good fun. Definitely recommend checking out that game. I've spent several hours playing that over the years. So Wikipedia races. So that's one of the things I use Wikipedia for to pass the time occasionally. When do you guys use Wikipedia the most? I know when I'm most likely to be having a browse on there. Do either of you find that there's a situation where you're like, damn, I've got to get on Wikipedia and I know I'm going to be able to find what I need? Alan, is there a particular scenario when that happens to you?
Maybe I think it's mostly about understanding certain terms, seeing what the definition of the term is, and maybe some examples. That's when it comes up, like a very conscious thought of I need to use Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But mostly it just comes up in search when I look for stuff. So it's not I want to look at it, but it is the first or second result that I look at.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Franz, any particular situations?
I honestly barely use Wikipedia as the first place to search. So it's barely that I go to wikipedia.com and then search something there, but it's always like Google first. And then I see if Wikipedia is among the results, I will always check that out. So it's almost like the steps in learning about anything. It's Googling and then maybe even Googling a word, wiki, if I know that I want to go there. But then it's always like checking whether there is a Wikipedia article about it. So I think I do use it for everything that I don't know and want to learn about as one resource.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'm the same. It's like probably the first place I go to when learning about something new that isn't like a new product or something like that. It's just like some knowledge, which seems so obvious. I've got to say, the time when it gets used the most for me is watching a TV show. I'll be like, what have they been in before? And then it's like, I've got to admit, I'm straight on the personal tab. Who have they dated? Who are they married to? How many kids they got? Oh my God, they're older than me. I'm terrible for that. I just want all the goss. So yeah, looking up actors, seeing like what else they've been in. Oh my God, do you know they're Canadian? They're not American. Oh, that's interesting. And then sport. Like I was watching the snooker final, the Masters the other day, and just like, yeah, looking at like controversies in like finals or looking back through like Jurgen Klopp's just left Liverpool, so like looking back through all of his like accolades and things like that. So yeah, sport and TV. That's when I'm like, it's like catnip for me.
Yeah, this does remind me of another use case I have for Wikipedia, which is when I travel, I always check the cities wiki page. I don't know why, but I'm very, very interested in the size of the cities. Like I try to learn approximately the population of each city that I visit. Yeah, or that I go to. Maybe it's just my affinity for numbers.
Yeah, it's the same for me.
So I always like,
to understand the city, one of the first data points is population.
Size. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever bothered to look at the population of the city before I go there. Maybe this is where I'm going wrong. No, straight into
famous actors.
Famous actors. Honestly,
who comes from this city?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's the one that I go into. I'm more of a people person, guys. I'm all about that side. You nerds are getting into the numbers. Fair play to
Numbers
you.
are about people, Tom.
Yeah.
When do you learn this? That's what we preach every day.
I know. He's gone off brand again.
Nah,
So
all good.
yeah, so many cool ways to use Wikipedia. I'm going on holiday next week. Maybe I will have a look at the population of where I'm going beforehand. But yeah, so I think this really highlights how Wikipedia, it is a big part of many of our lives as far as like the tool that we'll go to in particular situations. It is ubiquitous. Absolutely. We did a podcast a few months ago about Helvetica, and that felt like air, like it's everywhere from a typography perspective. And honestly, Wikipedia feels like that from an information and the internet perspective. It is one of the most used websites in the world. But it's very different actually from a lot of the other competitors that are used, very regularly up on that list. And I'll come back to that point in a moment. We've already mentioned it's basically a non-profit organization. How does it operate? Such a large website, so much data, so much updating and maintenance. Well, it relies on thousands of volunteers, which is truly an astonishing feat to get people to care so much about that. We will dive into that a little bit later. I've spent a bit of time sort of understanding the design ethos at Wikipedia. I think I didn't really understand how it worked before. We have lots of high profile designers that people like me are very aware of, people at Facebook and Google and Airbnb and these big brands which almost by name know who they are. Didn't have a clue who the designers behind Wikipedia were before researching this episode, and I have a newfound respect for them. One of those people who popped up a lot in interviews is Alex Hollander. You may have encountered him on your research as well. Not only obviously a very thoughtful, very good designer, but comes across very well in interviews as well. He describes Wikipedia as a democratically run open source website with an interface and backends that can be changed by anyone. I thought that was just the perfect way of summing up what Wikipedia is if you were trying to. And I really do feel that we take this incredible feat of Wikipedia for granted. I certainly did. And then I have to admit, I started researching this episode a little later than I would normally. And I was like, it's going to be fine. It's Wikipedia. How much can there be to say about its design? Holy shit.
Let me just read a Wikipedia page. I got it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many fascinating elements to how it operates, how change is managed, how they make decisions mostly, and how they've managed to maintain something that really it doesn't look like it's changed much over the years, but lots and lots of little changes over time mean that if you look back to 2001, 2004 as well, where there was the biggest update, and to now, it's like, wow, it's a stark change, but it feels like it's been lots of little changes over time. So, yeah, fascinating. I hope I haven't had too many blind spots in my research. I'll certainly be paying more attention to Wikipedia, the journey moving forward. So, yeah, if you've not heard of Wikipedia, well, I don't know what to say. Maybe go to Wikipedia and check it out. That's where I went, ironically. And the opening paragraph of Wikipedia says, Wikipedia is a free content online encyclopedia written and maintained by a community of volunteers known as Wikipedians. I didn't know that term before this. Through open collaboration and the use of the wiki-based editing system MediaWiki. Wiki is the largest and most referenced work in the world. More than 63 million articles, 2 billion unique visits a month, 14 million edits a month. These numbers are staggering, like 5.2 edits per second on average.
Crazy.
Absolutely wild. So that gives you an idea of the scale of this thing, because again, unless you step back, most of us are going into Wikipedia into an article or a category. We don't really step back and look at those numbers and think about the scale.
Huge. And it's just how well it's working. I remember somebody trying to place like a wrong information on Wikipedia just to test. I think it was like a writer that was trying to just show the Wikipedia isn't accurate and Wikipedia isn't that well maintained or moderated. And this person went into a pretty random Wikipedia article, so not like a big one, maybe not a Wikipedia page about an actor that Tal would read, but maybe something less popular. And they changed a certain data point, and they obviously made it wrong, but it took only a few seconds for somebody on the other side of the world, maybe even the same side of the world, but still like to correct that wrong entry. Because there's these people, Wikipedians, who really care, who really like have notifications on if somebody changes something in one of the articles they were part of, and they don't let it just slide with the wrong data.
Yeah, amazing. And there's a dude that I learned about that's at least a few years ago had been responsible for like a third of all edits on, like he had edited a third of all articles on Wikipedia at that point. It was an absolute obsessive. And a lot of these people are like obsessed. This dude was spending like 3 or 4 hours a day editing Wikipedia articles.
True.
I've never edited a Wikipedia article, but I think I'm more likely to after today.
Me neither. And I would like us to have a discussion around the accuracy of Wikipedia even later, but again, because there's a lot to unpack in my opinion, even now in the stuff that we discussed, like first the speed, but then also the fact that Wikipedians, there are many, but then there is only a few who are editing most of the articles, which can lead to bias and so on and so on. So I think there is a huge thing to unpack there. I would love to go into that again. When we learned more about how it actually works.
Can't wait to dive into that stuff. It's mind blowing. Another thing I didn't appreciate until like zooming out of the scale of Wikipedia is how many languages it operates in, 329 language editions. And you might think, okay, well, there's some translation happening. No. These are independent versions of Wikipedia in these different languages. And I did not understand that from an engineering perspective. Many versions of Wikipedia are not centralized. So the Wikipedia you might read in German or Korean natively is actually a completely different website from the one in English or French. They share a lot of code, but they are different websites. They are completely different websites. And I did not realize that. Most of Wikipedia is in English, but it's not like a 50-60%, 10.8% of Wikipedia is in English, and then there's this long tail of other languages, and I think that's fantastic. You'd think that English might be like super dominant, and it is, but not to the same scale that I might have expected. And back to that thing about them being independent, there's been lots of improvements made on Wikipedia over the years, from editing and layout and all of that. But there is variation. All of those, because they're independent improvements that might have been made to the Korean website, won't necessarily be deployed to the English language one. There's many features of the UI or the layout in particular that aren't the same across different Wikipedia sites. There's been things that have been changed in the Korean versions, like collapsible panels and things like that. And there's been like sticky elements in certain ones that took a very, very, very long time to become the norm in, the broader website. So a complication that I was not aware of.
And I read a super interesting story about these languages. I mean, you said that a lot of the languages are basically completely separate ways, and I learned that when I sometimes look something up in German and in English, I realized that this isn't a translation, right? This is somebody wrote the German article and that looks completely different from the English article, for example. And there is no translation and stuff, and that would maybe be the easiest, but it's not the case, but because people write it, right? The interesting thing for me was when I learned that the second biggest language when it comes to articles on Wikipedia is a language called Cebuano. Don't even know if I actually pronounced it correctly. Have you ever came across that language?
No, I have not.
Second, after English, second biggest language on Wikipedia is Cebuano, a language that's spoken in the Philippines with about 20 million speakers. And that's only And I'm
that's
reading this
quite
from an article.
low down.
Oh, sorry. I'm only reading this from an article, and I see that there are only 150 active editors from this language. But what they did is actually they created a translation engine. So it's completely, so it also depends on the local community, how the articles are actually written. Some local communities, they write it themselves, and others, like a language that is not spoken by many people, like Cebuano, they are saying like, well, we are just going to translate this automatically. So this means that we have a huge knowledge base in our native language. And that's for me one of the greatest examples of how this organism almost works, and how like Wikipedia was able to create such a huge and strong community where everyone can use Wikipedia very freely until somebody else says, no, that's wrong. Give me a source for that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, we'll dive into that how it tries to maintain a level of integrity, which comes under scrutiny, understandably. But then, it depends on your lens on where it fits into the world. I think of how much that matters. It's a big topic. Looking forward to diving into that. So yeah, the scale blows my mind. And this is a business and design podcast, so I've been really kind of geeking out on the design elements of Wikipedia, and really made me force myself to think, okay, what is it about the design of Wikipedia that makes it so powerful and successful as well? This open, like anyone can edit ethos and model. I was trying to put myself in the position of being like, say, a lead designer for Wikipedia, which isn't how it works, but you are designing and trying to handle and get your head around an incredible level of content, complexity, and editability. That holding that just blows my mind to know where to start. I when I was doing the research for this, I found so many people who have done like design challenges where they have redesigned Wikipedia. Cool, like interesting to watch, and a lot of these people caveat like, obviously this is just a fun exercise, but it makes you realize like we just take for granted the surface level of Wikipedia. There's so much design going on beyond that surface level. But this is intentionally, and I guess by design, a design of Wikipedia that changes very little. Had a big design update, big in inverted commas, update in 2023, and that was the most significant change since 2004. But honestly, most of us probably didn't even notice it. But unless you're really paying attention.
I didn't.
And I think the design of Wikipedia, the features of its design have kind of become its brand, for want of a better word. We talk, whenever we do these intros, normally we're talking about, what is the brand, like voice and value and tone and look and feel. Really, for Wikipedia, it is utilitarian, it is the ultimate expression online of function over form. And that plays out in a number of ways, mostly by that minimalist palette, right? This is black and white, predominantly. Black text, white background, ensures maximum readability, distraction-free. I don't think you can beat it as something to consume.
Isn't it interesting that a lot of top websites that we use share this trait? Like if you think about Google, it's not something I would say it's aesthetically super pleasing. It's very clear what you're getting. It's very easy to read. Same for Amazon. It's not beautifully designed, but it's well designed. Like it works. It's very functional. Probably I could say the same for Facebook, but I didn't use it in a long time, so I'm not sure it's still the case. But, at a certain point where you have such a product that's so successful, so popular, maybe that just becomes more important than the thing looking out of the box great. It's more about just, utilitarian, more about the function over form.
Absolutely. And there's other reasons that I'll touch on in a second why that is so critical to keep things mega simple. But just from a kind of design consistency perspective, I think that's what people recognize as the design of Wikipedia as well. Articles have this consistent layout: the header, the table of contents, the content area, the footer, the citations. It means you can quickly navigate and you kind of understand the structure of every page in Wikipedia once you've read a few articles, and that's mega powerful for it being quick and easy to use. So, when we think about the elements that make up a Wikipedia page, we've got the info boxes with this like quick summary of key facts. We've got the left-hand navigation sidebar that jumps you to particular sections of the article, ones that you'll recognize. If you're me, it's like, right, want to know about that actor's personal life? Straight down there.
Spouse.
Spouse. When did they? Oh my God, they've been divorced 5 times. The section and headings, all articles are divided into like these clearly defined sections with the subheadings that make it like mega easy to skim and locate that information about their, what school they went to and how many kids they've got. The table of contents, when you've got a longer article, it automatically generates this table of contents. And again, that allows you to kind of jump to the section you're interested in. All of these things, I don't think there's anything revolutionary here. These are UI patterns that are ubiquitous across the web. Wikipedia just kind of owns them and does them very well, and they have become synonymous with that design. I think the other thing, like mega important, that is extremely high priority is being readable and very, very accessible. Wikipedia uses open source typography, Linux Libertine, Linux Bioleum for its font, logo and headings. And then body text, it's like that standard sans serif stack, Arial, Helvetica, whatever your browser has got. It makes sure that it's like mega readable across different devices and browsers. And it's just simple, right? Clean, straightforward, designed to focus on the content. But you said, it gets to a point where when you're dealing with that much data, okay, it pays to be really, really simple. I think also when you are dealing with that much data and those many visitors, performance becomes so critical. So that obviously drives these decisions as well. And Wikipedia is performant as hell. Those fast load times ensure that anyone can access information quickly. We are very lucky in Central Europe that most of us are, the three of us on this call, pretty decent internet connection. Franz is a little juddery today. We'll see how that hangs up. But this is a product designed for everyone around the world. And there are areas of the world with very slow internet connections. And so designing for performance, keeping it simple means that information remains accessible to everyone regardless of their internet speed. And they've got some clever development stuff going on. Aggressive caching, good data management, the way they load and compress stuff is like super interesting. So it's all these layers of like complexity to this thing to make it operate, which is so interesting. And then the logo, which I have to say, it's a little cheesy. It's always looked a bit clip arty to me, but it ignores the trends, and I respect that. And it's not changed in a long time. So it's this puzzle globe made up of all these like puzzle pieces. Each one of them is inscribed with a different glyph from a different writing system, kind of trying to show that multilingual collaborative nature. But then it's got a couple of missing bits. It intentionally is kind of symbolizing this continuous growth and this ever evolving nature of it, which I respect, even though it looks a bit corny.
I'm sure there's plenty of designers online who have also tried to redesign Wikipedia's logo.
I bet. But, it's charming. It's, I hope they never change it. It's, it does evoke those things that it sets out to do. So, yes, so much complexity to design for, and big respect to the designers who have to try and tackle that, usually giving up their time for free, a lot of them. So those are kind of the explicit things that where design plays a role in Wikipedia. And then I think it is just so fascinating from a design perspective. There are so many reasons where designers should admire and pay attention to Wikipedia, or maybe even think about contributing to its design. We talk a lot about user feedback being so important about the design process. If you like user feedback, go and design for Wikipedia. I've looked at a few of the conversations that go on around like design changes for Wikipedia. Some of these conversations are longer than Moby Dick and like works of Shakespeare. I found a 90,000 word long discussion on whether the new skin should be the default or not. You are dealing with 2,000 volunteers who are participating in the development process, reviewing prototypes, giving feedback. It's like, holy shit. So many of us get spun out by, a few stakeholders giving us feedback, and how do we manage that? Can't imagine. How
you better not anger them. You better not anger your editors.
It's mad. So if you like design in the open, fill your boots, get involved in the design of Wikipedia. But if you find it tough taking feedback from users or the backlash for redesigns, a career with Wikipedia might not be for you. The bit that I did not realize quite so much is how powerful and how central prototyping is. And I think that's a thing that designers should definitely dive into and check out, the way that Wikipedia do it. Well, quote here, apologies, a little bit of a long one, but I thought it was really good, from the chap I mentioned earlier, the designer at Wikipedia. He says, how do you get to a good design? Some people have the luxury of starting with a semi-good design, releasing it, then using real data and feedback to refine it. We don't have that luxury in terms of infrastructure and engineering. The process of getting to a good design needs to happen much more upfront before releasing anything. This ends up putting emphasis on how effectively you communicate designs and communicate about designs. You have to have many high quality, inclusive conversations about the designs before you build anything. And those stakeholders, right, thousands of them, different languages, different contexts, different stakeholders, different needs. Insane, the amount of people you need to include. And the prototypes they build are really cute. I've been playing around with a bunch of them. They're all built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They're all shared with the community, and they can play around with them and give specific feedback on them. Just like hat tip, insane. So yeah, hopefully we pique your interest. Go and check out the way that Wikipedia do prototyping. Go and understand the way that they manage design feedback and stakeholders, because it is on another level. So yeah, if you're a designer working on something like Wikipedia, you are having real impact. We talk about, a lot of people justify, I'm sorry, throwing a little bit of shade, going and working at companies like Facebook and the like, saying, I'm going to have impact. I'm going to be deploying my stuff to millions of people. But I think, like, the people who are designing at Wikipedia, the scale that they're working at is insane. But also, I feel like they're having a seriously positive impact with the information they are making available to the world. Nothing quite compares with Wikipedia on that front. The impact it can have, knowledge can have. So yeah, really, for me, put into perspective where something like it fits. So yeah, I've talked a lot about design, the design philosophy, how it prioritizes user experience, simplicity, and speed. It is fascinating, and how those design principles have kind of shaped the platform into this mega user-friendly resource that we rely on all the time. So yeah, but
thanks for sharing, Tom, because I think my first reaction when I think about Wikipedia, especially as an open source project, is I think about the open source perspective of content. But up until prepping for this episode, and especially now hearing you talk about it, I didn't think about the open source nature of design for Wikipedia, because it's usually the product is, in this case, mostly the content itself. So my focus was there, but it's really fascinating to also hear how it's done on design. And I wonder if it's also sometimes the negative, maybe it is the reason why Wikipedia was not able maybe to make certain changes it wanted to make in design, because it needs to go through this process of asking for opinion of so many people, and that means that you just water down certain maybe more forward-looking features, forward-looking ideas in order to have consensus among a bigger group. So that's one thing that's also interesting to think about in this respect, how this open source, maybe it works so well on the content side, but it might even work against Wikipedia on the product development side, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, fascinating. I had not appreciated the scale, not just of Wikipedia, but also the challenge of designing and engineering for it as well. When you've got so many different use cases as well, as most of us, it's just consuming, but the people who need to edit, there's enormous complexity there as well to design for. So yeah, definitely worth a deep dive if you're interested, but need to kind of take a step back. That's where we are now, which is incredible behemoth, to use Alan's words later. But, you know, how do you get a project like Wikipedia started?
Yeah, that's I was also super interested in that, because our knowledge of Wikipedia is from using stuff, right? And we have all been using Wikipedia a lot. We talked about this. And before I did the research on this, it felt like, well, two things, right? Two things made Wikipedia successful. It was taking encyclopedias online, because before it was just books, and it's being free, right? I mean, that's easy. That's what I thought. But already now, by hearing your story and also by doing some research, I realized that there is just so much more to Wikipedia's success than these two, let's say, obvious points. So it's really interesting to start from the start and talk about the founder, Jimmy Wales. Actually, classic.com profile. So he was actually working in finance and basically was a trader. So finance background, and was a trader. With the money from this, he became a .com entrepreneur, and he was in the like Web 1.0 age. He founded a website, and that website was called Bomis. On the Wikipedia article, I learned it rhymes with promise. So Bomis rhymes with promise. That's what the company was called, that was founded in 1996. Essentially, it was a web search portal like Yahoo. So not sure if you remember this, but it had basically not, the biggest feature wasn't the search bar where you can input something like a word and you search for this, but it had options you click on. And just like think back of the early days of the internet, you don't even know what to search for. So the solution was, I will give you some of the options that I have as results in the internet, and you can just click on stuff, and you can also search, but you would rather click on stuff that you see is there, because you don't even know exactly what to search for, because it's 1996. Who knows what's on the internet? And also, there is not so much on the internet yet. And so that was this kind of web search engine that was geared towards very, let's say, a very special target group. So it was a lot of cars and sports, and also adult content. So Bomis was, let's say, in this corner of the internet, and it had revenue through ads, and it had revenue through premium accounts that actually were buying you adult content. So it was porn. So
it was the early doors on that front.
It's interesting that this recording we're in right now is called XXX, because we didn't know what the name of the company or the organization we would cover would be. So that's kind of befitting the story of Bomis.
The internet was wild in the early days. So yeah, that was Bomis. And in 2000, Bomis actually created another product, which was an online encyclopedia. And if you think that this is Wikipedia, you're wrong, because it wasn't Wikipedia. It was Nupedia, N-U-pedia, the free online encyclopedia. Sounds familiar, right? But I will tell you more that it's actually not that similar, or it is similar, but it's not the same. So, by the way, also data point here that was interesting for me, Britannica was synonymous for encyclopedias back then. And it released their first online version in 1995. So 5 years earlier than Bomis created Nupedia. So now we can already establish that putting encyclopedias online was not Nupedia's, Bomis, Wikipedia's idea. There were online encyclopedias already.
I've had Britannia when I was a kid. My dad loved making sure I had all that stuff. I don't remember using it very much. Occasionally, probably to make him feel like the investment had been worth it.
Hey, same for me. We had there is a German equivalent, and this is called Brockhaus. So huge books, and I remember just feeling so intimidated by them, though we had them in our shelves, and you took it and it was heavy, and I was a kid, and obviously a big book is even bigger and more heavy when you are a kid, so you take it off the shelf, you see all these weird small letters, can't really navigate, don't know what's in there, so you just read, and then you read stuff that you're not interested in, and then you read stuff that you don't understand, but still at the same time you're very drawn to it because it feels like you're having knowledge in your hand. So I still remember very well how I used these encyclopedias, the real ones.
Yeah, same. There's something quite charming about just finding a random thing, right? And I still do that with Wikipedia sometimes, show me the random stuff. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough gossip about actors in Succession, so I sort of tuned out.
Yeah, actually, apparently,
one encyclopedia, a general one at home, and it was quite colorful and nice. I remember that my favorite part was at the end there was flags of every country and the capital city. So when I was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, it was my goal to learn capital city and a flag of every country. And I succeeded. And then Dad took me out for an ice cream.
Oh, very good. Well done, Alen. Good boy.
Yeah. But now I understand that I took the shorter stick here. Learned all of those flags for one ice cream.
That's a lot of flags. Your dad drove hard bargain. Did he move you on to populations? Is that where you got taken to McDonald's for that?
That was later. Yeah, that was the second step.
Yeah, classic parenting hack.
Yeah.
So, 1995, Britannica launched their online version of Encyclopedia, and it was apparently very popular. So basically, the proof of concept that there was demand for online encyclopedia was already there. Actually, Nupedia wanted to be the bigger, better, more in-depth version of Britannica when it was founded. So Nupedia was this free encyclopedia, and it was actually also created by volunteers. The big difference to Wikipedia, though, was that Wikipedia wanted to be a reliable source. And the way they thought they would be the reliable source was that they were very strict with what they published. Articles were actually written by known authors with degrees in this field. Then there was this, 7-step review process, peer review process. And then there was professional in-house editors. Nupedia actually had editors, and they did this for a job. Keep in mind, still volunteers, right? So they were looking for professional writers with degrees who would write this for free, but then still being peer-reviewed and basically moderated and also edited by professionals. So you can already see how this model has an interesting vision, but is pretty flawed, right? So this lengthy process led to a result of 12. I don't know if that's really true, but I read somewhere that they had 12 articles in their very first year published.
I saw that. I sort of tells you everything. I need to know about the academic process. No,
yeah.
But yeah,
good one.
I had the same feeling. When I saw and heard about this process, it felt like they are publishing academic papers. So what they basically did was creating the worst version of Britannica, because like they wanted to be the free online open volunteers, but then they had still these barriers of creating it. So this model, this way of operating just didn't fit the big vision of Nupedia. On the landing page of Nupedia, there was written, Wikipedia, Nupedia is under construction. Our first articles are being published. Join! Exclamation mark. Help create the largest international peer-reviewed encyclopedia in history, right? So all sounds great, but we already know that there was a flaw. And here comes in the next key figure in this story, which is Larry Sager. Sager, I don't know. Sorry, Larry.
I think Sager.
Sager. He was actually chief editor. he was the chief editor at Nupedia, he had all the articles on his desk. All the articles. 12. So he realized
he realized this is too much to work, and he said, "Oh, let the other people review this instead of me."
Exactly.
And Wikipedia was born. Yeah,
that's the whole thing.
So Wikipedia was born out of. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Wikipedia was born out of like somebody being overworked. No, sorry, Larry.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. No, actually, what Larry Sager realized or suggested is that they should utilize the wiki technology to finally get some articles out. Like he saw his product just not taking off. And here's the next surprise that I had in this story. For me, Wikipedia was always synonymous with the wiki technology, but that's just wrong. So Wikipedia technology was also created 5 years earlier, 1995, by Ward Cunningham. And he created the WikiWiki web, which was the very first user editable website. Remember, we are in Web 1.0. So this is read-only. This is very static. So now we have this WikiWiki web that is the first website that is user editable. And it also is the first that is like open source, open collaboration, because that was the whole goal of this. WikiWiki is actually Hawaiian for quick. And the idea was quick collaboration between coders. And that was the reason why this technology came to be. And Nupedia was just too slow. And that's why they created a second complement website to get articles out. And that's what we now know, and I also didn't know that this existed, is Wikipedia Day. January 15th, 2001, it finally happened. Wikipedia was launched. On following the same vision, creating the biggest encyclopedia in history, but through a completely different model, right? By the end of the first year, they had 20,000 articles. So what Nupedia did in a year, 12 versus 20,000. Yeah, actually, Wikipedia continued to be so successful that by 2003, the company gave up the Nupedia project and made Wikipedia their focus. And at that point in 2003, Wikipedia had about 100,000 articles. And next surprise, Wikipedia was still a step away from today, because at this point in time, Wikipedia was still a for-profit company. Wikipedia was a subsidiary of BOMIS, like one project, one company as part of BOMIS, but the vision of being a free encyclopedia was already there. So with the success of Wikipedia and without actually revenue from it, it became very hard for BOMIS to support the project. It basically just drained their resources, because their Nupedia and their search engine, that just didn't work, right? So they had a great product, articles, writers, Wikipedians, but we're not making money. So the board decided to fund the project as a non-profit. And this is how Nupedia and BOMIS were basically terminated, and Wikimedia Foundation was born. So the organization behind Wikipedia is actually called Wikimedia and is now a full suite of projects. So yeah, we have Wikipedia, we have Wikinews, we have Wikibooks, we have Wiktionary, we have Wikiversity. Has any of you
I didn't
ever
realize
used...
how many wikis there were. Sorry, I've jumped in on the question you were going to ask, which is, I haven't used any of those before this week, Franz, including there's a travel guide. Alen, there'll be all the flags on there, all of the populations. So you might want to check it out.
How is it called?
Oh, God, it's, what is it? Saw it earlier.
Wikitravel.
Wikitravel.
I don't know, because everything is wiki and the
Wikivoyage. Free worldwide travel guide that you can edit, Franz or Alen.
I'm just checking my own home city just to see if it feels like it's good or not.
Yeah, let me have a look.
Oh,
mine.
There is a section called drink, and there is 7 places to drink in my hometown, which isn't correct. There is slightly more.
9.
Yeah, they forgot about the other 2. No, but that looks decent. I don't see there is population size. Okay, I'm all about Wiki Voyage. Let's go.
Yeah, and this one's quite good for where I am. I'm quite impressed. Brighton, yeah. Got all the...
Let's see. Yeah. So you Brighton, that's the US Brighton or the UK Brighton?
No, the UK Brighton. Come on, Alen.
I didn't know there's so many. That's why I'm joking.
There are.
So one is Michigan, Colorado.
It's could do with a little update on a few things, but the food and drink again.
Decent.
Comprehensive.
When you were talking about number of pubs, sorry, I'm going to go completely off topic for a second. Pubs. No, pubs. Right.
The one thing the Brit is interested in.
There are. You might get quick guessing. How many pubs in Brighton? 2 seconds to think about it.
First population
1,200
to triangulate.
Oh, you spoiled it. 350. Right, next. Carry on.
Can that be true? I think there are more.
What, 350?
Yeah.
Oh, then no, it's quite a lot. Anyway, that's the statistic that I was interested in. I'm not much of a drinker, but yeah. Anyway.
So almost as many wiki branches as pubs in Brighton. Well, obviously just kidding, but still there is a lot of wikis, right? And there is actually also a for-profit product. So all of Wikimedia's projects, they call them projects, Wikipedia, Wikinews, Wikibooks, Wikivoyage, all of that is based on the same principle. People share knowledge, Wikipedians share knowledge, and people who consume knowledge, and it's basically the marketplace. But there is one product that is a for-profit product, which is called Wikimedia Enterprise, a commercial product by the Wikimedia Foundation to provide in a more easily consumable way the data of Wikimedia projects, including, for example, Wikipedia. So it's basically an API that packages existing data that every company could already get in a more automated way. And that standardization makes communication between websites faster and also enables, for example, info boxes. Like the thing that we see on every Google search on the top right is the result of the Wikimedia Enterprise API.
Nice. Didn't know that. I've always found those really helpful, the little summary boxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I even came across how much revenue it's making. I'm going to share this later, but I was, let's just say, surprised.
Yeah, true. I mean, Wikimedia Foundation is a, let's say, substantial business with air quote because it's a nonprofit, but I was surprised by its size, 700 employees and contractors in 2022. But as Alen said, I'm not going to go more into detail about that. That's Alen's cup of tea. But before that, I want to dive a little bit deeper into strategy first. Like already in the beginning, we established that taking encyclopedias online and making it free is not what made Wikipedia successful. Actually, I would argue, when you think about it, that free and online is maybe the most frequent and most failed idea in this whole century. So that's maybe not the reason. So what is it? And I was just interested to think about how they could really beat Britannica, a company that first published their encyclopedia around 1770. Yeah, you heard correctly. It's so old that no one even knows when they first issued their first issue. So it is like you can't even find the exact date because it's 1770. So that's
bananas.
Big, right? They dominated the industry ever since for centuries. And that's apparently true. It's not an exaggeration. So they took a big bet, basically, Wikipedia. And the bet paid off. And the bet that I think is core here is open source and open collaboration. So letting everybody edit and sacrificing accuracy for it. So we saw that this core decision really propelled the success of the product because we had the free, big, open, voluntary, not open, but free, big, and voluntary was already in Nupedia, right? The digital was already there. So where the core decision was actually opening it up for people to edit it, being open source with the content, and basically just hoping that accuracy would be good enough because nobody believed that this would be the case. That's the reason why Nupedia had this lengthy process and looked for volunteer professional writers, which was, now we know that's weird. And now we know that Wikipedia model kind of works. But at this point in time, that was a huge bet, right? So, well, now actually we know that it wasn't that big of a contradiction because it turned out that it actually helped them be more accurate. It turned out that the biggest problem wasn't right information, but the biggest problem of accuracy was old content. And the big problem of these traditional encyclopedias was speed. And also the big problem of Nupedia was speed, right? The hard copy versions, they took a year to be updated, but also the online versions had to be written by professionals and had to be peer reviewed in a traditional way of making encyclopedias, creating encyclopedias. And also, if you think about it, the principle of an encyclopedia is right information. So breaking with this paradigm of let's just everybody write this, it's gonna turn out okay, is a big one, and turned out to actually even help the accuracy because they solved the issue of speed and updating. This open source and open editing changed this completely, and that's the beauty of mutually supporting trade-off decisions, right? So one decision, open source, open editing, is the basis for so many other things that are possible through this for the company who took one way, but are completely impossible for the company who is not on the same side of this decision, right? So Britannica, with this proprietary model, you just can't follow, let alone beat Wikipedia on the aspect of speed, which turned out to be the biggest factor for accuracy as well. And that was like super interesting for me to understand these, like how all these decisions are connected and are like to be traced back to this one or let's say few core decisions that they were taking?
I'd love to know the conversations that might have been going on at Britannica HQ when Wikipedia first come up. I bet they were. I mean, I don't like to think they were just laughing it off, but yeah, there must have been a little bit of like, we've been around since 17 something. This can't work. Yeah, Taylor's all the time. Yeah, underestimate it at your peril.
But it is one of the most paradoxical ideas. It's like by making it more open, by letting everyone write stuff, you're making it more accurate. It's just like common sense is telling you that something is off.
Yeah.
Because we're not used to a system that's actually self-regulating, which in this case Wikipedia is, because once you get enough mass, enough Wikipedians, enough editors, enough people that care, that's where actually it starts really working. But you need to have that escape velocity to get to that mass. And also you need to have a very good brand that attracts the right people who really care about this. Because if this was a different type of product, maybe not about knowledge, maybe about something else, you just need a fit. You need a really good fit for this type of product for it to work this way.
Yeah,
and
the Cabinet tried. Yeah.
Just happened that this was the encyclopedia case.
Underestimate the open source community at your peril, because open source people who really, really care about this stuff are just on another level as far as like how much of themselves they would pour into it, how much they care about that community and about that product. We've seen it with, WordPress. I guess it's the comp to something like Wikipedia as well. The scale and the care. So yeah, big admirer of open source communities and even more so of Wikipedia after this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is really the basis for why they were able to disrupt this arena back then. For me, then the question is was also like, how is it possible that they are still successful, right? So just think about it. Non-profit, founded in early 2000s in the arena of knowledge sharing, maybe even popular knowledge, partly, competing with tech giants. Like you're in the space with the Googles, the Apples, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Reddits, and everybody who is like also like founded when you were founded or the biggest companies that were existing when Wikipedia was founded are just like, many are not gone, but completely irrelevant. So that's an interesting one for me. So I was also interested in that, and I think there are, well, let's say two reasons that I think are relevant here. I'm happy to hear your thoughts about them. But I think the first one is one of the classics that we have discussed in this podcast many times. What is it?
Network effects.
Yeah. Our darling network, like just go for network effects if it was so easy, right? If you only had the playbook to create something that has network effects where the value for every user increases exponentially with a new user, meaning that if you are big, it's just very hard to be disrupted. So the bigger the community, the bigger the value for everyone involved. And it's kind of logical, right? Readers go where they have the most content and writers go where they have the biggest audience. And as soon as you basically broke through a certain threshold, like creating Wikipedia now, like, yeah, that's going to be hard, right? Because they have the network effects. They own this. They have the audience and the editors. Yeah,
there's a great book. So if anyone is interested in network effects, it's called The Cold Start Problem, because the hardest thing in a network effect is getting it started. Because in the beginning, there's actually almost zero incentive for both sides, for somebody to come to Wikipedia, for somebody to write for Wikipedia. So how do you solve this so-called cold start problem? So if anyone is interested in this, yeah, that's a phenomenal book. It almost reads like an instruction manual with a lot of examples.
Nice one. And second one was also interesting for me to realize that they're actually, so I said, one question for me was, how are they so successful now that they are competing with these giants? I realized that now they are actually not competing with the giants. They are enabling the giants and helping each other. So searchability, search engine optimization was something that they did from the Wikipedia, did from the very early, because their vision and their goal was to make knowledge as accessible as possible. And at the same time, Google popped up, right? So how do people access knowledge? By searching for it. So they realized very early on that this is not only a way to make people use knowledge, but also a great way to distribute their product, right? So by being so open, by search engine optimization, you have not only easy accessibility, you have like almost free distribution. Like it's very easy to, you're competing with companies who need to sell, right? Britannica needs to sell their licenses. And what you're doing is you're just making it as easy as possible for somebody to type in something and reach Wikipedia as fast as possible. So that's how they not competed with other companies who shared knowledge, but they actually tried to be as close as possible to them. And now we have also learned that Wikipedia is gold for training AI. Large language models love Wikipedia. They cannot be trained by content that they create. So having a source with, Tom, how many articles? Do you remember?
6 million, is there in English, I think? Something like that.
And something that talks about the same topic in different languages. Yeah, so that's big. So now it's also, just being able as Wikipedia to stay maybe this island. I don't know. It has often been called the last best place on the internet. So maybe this is also what these other giants need. Like there needs to be one good place in the internet so that the rest that is maybe not as good can exist. And I think this is a beautiful thought, and I hope it's true. I don't know.
The last bastion of goodness on the internet.
Yeah, but I mean, when I'm listening to this, I'm getting the feeling. So we live in the age where, if you have high quality data that you can use to train AI models, this sounds like the new oil. Sounds like a gold mine in a way, right? Because now every company, big tech companies at least, are trying to build their own machine learning models, language models, and they all need Wikipedia. But then when I look at the financials, it just doesn't fit, because in the financial year 2022-2023, Wikipedia had 180 million in revenue. And the vast majority of that revenue came from, yes, of course, donations. 168 million to be exact. And the rest came from investment income and Wikimedia Enterprise, which is the entity that you just talked about, Franz, which provides other companies access to Wikimedia content in a consistent machine-readable format. And you know how much revenue this Wikimedia Enterprise made in 2022/2023?
Not enough to impress Alen. Have we got how much?
3 million.
So
that's not even 3% of their revenue. So I couldn't believe this. I couldn't find other data that would be like disprove this, because this came directly from Wikipedia. They have a page in their financials. So it's as trustworthy as it can get in this case. But I was shocked. I was honestly shocked by this disparity, because something that is as valuable as this in today's world to only generate 3 million in royalties, yeah, there is this, at least for my small brain, disconnect. Like, how can this be? But yeah, as mentioned, so the revenue of Wikipedia is $180 million in 1 year. So naturally, what I wanted to understand is, how does Wikipedia stack against other very popular websites or companies? You might know, but Wikipedia fits among 10 most visited websites in the world, according to SimilarWeb. It is actually
That also blew my mind, to be honest. Like a company being consistently among the 10 most visited websites in the world for, like, I know when it started that they entered I think it's like from the very start, they were one of the most visited websites, and they consistently were in the top 10. That's
true. Yeah.
Crazy.
If we look at the others in the top 10, there's Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X or Twitter, Baidu, Wikipedia, Yahoo. I was surprised Yahoo is still hanging there, but it's still on place 8.
What? Yeah. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. So of course, your boy was interested in how much revenue is Wikipedia making compared to other top websites in the world. Okay, so reminder, Wikipedia, 180 million. Google, or Alphabet, 300 billion.
Billion, right?
Meta, billion, yeah, B. Yeah, the capital B. Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, 150 billion. Amazon, 500 billion. So there's a huge disparity. You do have one other website which is in a similar scale, let's say, that's Reddit with 1 billion, which recently went public. But all the rest, yeah, there's just unbelievable disparity. So then, obviously, I was interested in other examples of products that had two variations. So it's an industry or a type of product that came in open source and in proprietary version. So one of those examples is obviously Linux versus Microsoft. And you may have heard of a company called Red Hat. So it's a company that provides support to organizations that use Linux as their operating system instead of Microsoft. So they're kind of competing head to head with the Windows division within Microsoft. So yeah, Linux, their yearly revenue is $6 billion. Windows revenue, 22 billion. So still huge gap. Then we have another example from the SQL database. So there is a product called MongoDB, reported 1 billion in revenue, and it's competing with Oracle, one of the major, if not the biggest, probably the biggest provider of proprietary database software. And they're making 50 billion. So huge delta there. Then another example is Firefox. So a web browser, which is competing with obviously Chrome and Safari. And it's a bit hard to compare with these two because Firefox is making their revenue directly with the web browser, while Alphabet or Google is not really monetizing Chrome, but it's in a way part of their advertising budget, which is making $237 billion a year, while Firefox is making 600 million. Huge disparities there.
What's the learning or the interesting thing here for me is that there seems to be in many categories, in many arenas, there seems to be a open source, not always non-profit, but open source. Maybe there are like many open source are non-profit, but so still a competitor that's open source to the big for-profit proprietary organizations. And these open source are what I just learned and what is also kind of, I would say, foreseeable, much smaller, but still a, let's say, significant operation. So I'm obviously, given the audience, given the number of visitors, given the number of customers, you could say it's small. For me, it was still impressive to see how much revenue they do make, how much assets, how big their assets are. And did you also come across the salaries?
I did. So I think we had this discussion before the podcast, right? So the salary of the CEO of Wikipedia, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but it's making 700K in a year.
Must be nice.
Yeah, not bad. But to be fair, we need to compare this with CEOs of other top tier internet companies, right? Okay, so Wikipedia CEOs making 700K, which to us sounds like, oh, wow, that's crazy. But you know how much Sundar, so the Alphabet CEO, made last year?
Oh, big bit.
Take a guess. Yeah,
I'm going to say 10 million.
Okay, a good guess, Franz?
5.
226 million.
Really?
226.
But was that not all cash, obviously?
No, this is the total compensation.
Right.
And then Meta, so Mark, took 25 million home. And then the Amazon CEO took 30 million home. So I think she's getting underpaid.
Yeah, she might want to negotiate with Jimmy. Come on, Jim boy. Mugging me off.
No, but to go back to this bigger point, Franz, I think what's interesting is, for me, the bigger learning or bigger question is, where can open source be a winner? Because I think in encyclopedia, Wikipedia is the winner, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of these other examples, despite open source offering a very similar product at a lower price point, or actually by definition for free almost, it's still not winning. Companies, people kind of still prefer the proprietary version with menus, with a lot of different options. So that's the conundrum for me. It's like there's this free, good product, but for some reason, either our psychology or culture or something else still gravitates toward the paid model, even as consumers.
Yeah, I guess, the slight thing, I guess, with Wikipedia is the main user isn't exposed to all the complexity that comes with open source. Like if you're buying some of those other products, open source comes with its complications from a management perspective. We're quite fortunate that the people that invest in making Wikipedia what it is, like, embrace that culturally. But from a user perspective, there's no barriers. But I do find, like, I've used a lot of open source software in the past, and it's great, but there are barriers that are not so much there with these other ones. I think you're seeing that with X versus Mastodon. Mastodon being like the open source alternative. Absolute fucking nightmare to actually set up a profile. Like, I was like, I'm out. I haven't got a computer science degree to set up fucking social media. So
yeah. There is this interesting
where does it fit?
Yeah. There is this interesting Figma competitor, right? Penpot. So there is a podcast episode, Alen, right, with the founder of Penpot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's an open source design tool. It's curious how that turns out. Yeah, really curious.
Episode 79, if you're interested.
Good episode.
Very good.
Sure.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah, really interesting story. Fascinating, like the little nuggets around where they were when the Adobe takeover was going to happen with Figma and stuff. Give it a listen. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Obviously, I did one other thought exercise because I was trying to understand, okay, if Wikipedia was not open source, how much revenue could it make? Yeah, just the type of thing I'm interested in. Call me crazy. But, so I was trying to figure out, first of all, we didn't talk about the costs. Okay, so we talked about the revenue of Wikipedia. In terms of the costs, one of the very important ratios that every nonprofit wants to boast about and say basically is how much of their money, how much of the fundraising money actually went towards their programs, towards the stuff that actually people wanted to support, right? In this case, how much of the money that Wikipedia raised went actually towards the Wikipedia directly, towards the website and what we are reading as users. And yeah, that's pretty impressive. 76% was allocated to so-called programmatic activities, which include software development, server operations, content curation, increasing access to Wikipedia in certain parts of the world, supporting Wikipedians around the world, and so on. Then 11% went to fundraising, and that money went to the banner you see on top of the Wikipedia, so organizing all of that. The ads, yeah. Then there's also the donor management, because they have some big donors and they have people or employees that make sure that these relationships are being taken care of. And then there's always also marketing and communication that goes into this 11%. And the rest 30% is so-called admin. And a part of this 30% is also the salary of CEO. Alrighty. But I was interested in what would the cost be if actually Wikipedia would not be run as a nonprofit, but would be run as a proprietary. And the biggest difference would be in 4 buckets, I believe. One is just the cost of content moderators and editors, which, let's say you would just have 1,000 content specialists, and each of them costs you, let's say, $70,000. This is already 70 million annually. And you can easily double this if you need 2,000, 3,000 content specialists. Then they would need to spend a lot more on licensing fees, because people wouldn't be willing to share free images and so on. So that would be additional, let's say, 10 to 30 million per year, maybe even 50. Then there's also obviously then marketing and customer support costs, because if you're not open source, you have customers that pay you something, and then you need to do marketing for that product. And that would probably also increase their marketing costs by another 30 to 50 million. So we're just looking at 3 times as big. So their cost basis would basically increase threefold if they went to the proprietary company. And then the natural question is, what would happen to their revenue? And my estimate is that they could make around $1.5 billion per year if they were proprietary company instead of nonprofit. Because one of the very first things they could do is, you guessed it, turn on the ads. So they have billions and billions of page views a month. So I came across 10 to 20 billion figure a month, so the page views. And if we just assume that you can charge $3 for 1,000 views, that would give them basically $650 million of ad revenue. And then they could also have some kind of subscription revenue where they could have a freemium model, and then they would offer some kind of additional content or some kind of additional access to certain users. And if we apply 1% conversion, so out of everyone who's using Wikipedia right now, 1% would become paid subscribers, then this would give them additional 600 to 700 million a year. So yeah, and this together would be around 1.5 billion in revenue, which would make them then highly profitable, and probably Wikipedia's CEO would make a lot more money. But this isn't a case for me, that's why you should be proprietary versus open source. It was just a fun exercise to see the difference, because I was interested in this ratio. How much money is being basically attributed or distributed to society by using open source model instead of proprietary? And also what Pablo was saying in the podcast that you mentioned before, Franz, so with the PenPod founder, is that this ratio is roughly 1 to 10. And this, my simple back of the envelope calculation showed is that the revenue of the company or the revenue of the open source project is roughly 10% of what it could be if it was proprietary.
Which means
so 90%
that's
of the value
all
goes
for
basically to society. Yeah.
I really like this thought experiment, because it's like we learn about there is so much in this. In doing this, we learn about proprietary versus open source. We learn about business modeling, because the question is, how would you actually monetize this? We learn about cost, like what investment would you have to make? So whenever you have the chance, dear listeners, to think about hypothetically how something could look, back of the envelope calculation, obviously all of what Alen said is pure guessing and very likely wrong, but also very likely great content and great thoughts, right? So this exercise in itself is awesome and really, also fun. So when I don't know, some of you might be watching this on YouTube, you saw me with a big smile when Alen introduced all his points and all his assumptions and all his numbers. So that's just great.
It's a real eye-opener. Yeah. But I'm glad they're not going to do that.
No, definitely not.
The last best place of the internet.
Should stay that way. So I guess now that we learned all that about Wikipedia, the question is, how do we feel about it? Usually we have this segment called buy, hold, sell. In this case, that's impossible to do. We cannot buy, hold, or sell stocks of Wikipedia because it's a non-profit, but just it's more about our feelings of how well it is positioned as an organization to thrive in the future, to grow, to stay stable, or maybe to decline. So Franz, maybe, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I still deeply believe in the power of network effects. So it's going to be super, super hard to disrupt Wikipedia with a similar model. Obviously, the huge question here is whether the value proposition of Wikipedia will be relevant in the future with AI. We have also learned that currently it's hard to, currently AI needs to feed on content like Wikipedia, but I don't have a clue how that actually works. And I don't know how that's going to develop. And what we have seen with the recent release of different large language models, it's wild, right? So I don't know. Maybe that's the killer, but I hope it's not. So that's all I can say. So I think network effects and how it's positioned right now, super strong. Who knows what happens with how we as people actually fetch knowledge, learn about stuff, ask questions to the internet. I think we're in a huge paradigm shift currently, and I just don't know how that's going to play out.
I'd say everything Franz said are my concerns, I guess. I'd be really sad if Wikipedia started to wane in the wake of AI stuff, but I guess we don't know what it's going to look like in a year, 2 years. Right now, it feels like a poor substitute for me opening up 100 tabs from going down a Wikipedia hole. And culturally, it's fantastic. I don't think those sort of editing sickos are going anywhere, thankfully. I think the people who want to do it are hardcore. So I don't see that waning. I will remain very, very pro Wikipedia. And who knows what they might develop, the kind of AI world. Don't know whether that's something.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. I was going to say, they probably have a 1 million-page discussion about it, though, which might slow things down.
I think the big thing here is still how they continue to keep their product quality, i.e. accuracy and community, right? So we have also learned in the last few years that that even Wikipedia is under fire. I'm now talking about bias of editors. I'm talking about vandalism of knowledge. I'm talking about PR agencies that are hired to spin articles in a certain way. And if they fail to not solve that, but if they fail to keep it basically at a level that is acceptable, like it was now, we accepted some certain level of inaccuracy in Wikipedia. If they are able to keep that in line, I think we are looking towards a good future with Wikipedia. If it turns out that Wikipedia can also be spinned, can be vandalized, can be utilized by certain groups of people, so basically losing its neutrality value, I think then the house of cards might be also falling. So that's, I think, their core challenge when it comes to the product itself.
Yeah, we kind of share your thoughts. I'm not very optimistic. I'm very pro Wikipedia, but I'm not very optimistic. If you look at their revenue sources, most of it is coming from fundraising, which means people knowing that they're using Wikipedia and becoming attached to the brand. If I get served the same kind of results in a ChatGPT or another model, and I do not know this is coming from Wikipedia, my emotional connection to the brand Wikipedia is going down. I'm less likely to donate. So that's a huge problem. And I think they really need to start thinking how they can, if that's the future of how we consume knowledge and how we ask questions. So instead of me going on Google and asking a question and getting on a Wikipedia page, me going directly into LLM and just getting the same data, just in a different format, then Wikipedia needs to adapt their revenue model. They will need to charge more for giving access to this content. But then the problem becomes, how do you keep Wikipedians motivated? Because now they don't have the feeling they're contributing to this page. They have a feeling they're contributing to this AI revolution. So I see a lot of challenges ahead, which can be solved. But the thing you brought up, Tom, which is, they might have a 1 million-page discussion on how to handle this, is what worries me. Like, once you have an open source, very open, very inclusive community, it works perfectly well in the prosperity times. But once you are in a crisis, which Wikipedia is not yet, but might be very soon because of this, then you need strong leadership, very decisive actions, and that might be the challenge. So, very shaky times, I think, for Wikipedia ahead.
Curious about that.
Agreed. Yeah. Watch this space.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's revisit this in 5 years. Eventually.
Maybe.
Cool. That was a nice one to prep, but even nicer to record.
Enjoyed it. Yeah.
Very
Big
much.
respect to the design challenges, the sickos who keep us enjoying Wikipedia. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good work.
And super nice new category for Teardowns. First one, open source, nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know if you enjoy this one and we can do more. And yeah, hope it was enjoyable to listen to, as it was enjoyable for us to prep and record. And if you enjoy this episode, you might also enjoy our free email course where we teach business skills relevant for designers. So we mentioned a few of those today in the show, like revenue, cost, and so on. So if you want to learn more concepts like this, you can head over to d.MBA/mini-MBA and sign up for the 7-day free email course, where over the course of 7 days, you receive 7 emails, each of them teaching you one business concept relevant for designers. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Franz. See you in the next one.
See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.